When you think about attraction, it's rarely about the obvious parts of your body that everyone assumes men are fixated on. In fact, some of the most powerful sources of desire are hidden in plain sight, and the neck and collarbone are perfect examples of that. There's something about this area that makes it irresistibly intimate, yet subtle enough that most people don't notice the effect it has. For a man, your neck and collarbone carry a kind of quiet magnetism. They're not screaming for attention, but when revealed even slightly, they send his imagination racing in ways you might not realize. What makes this part of your body so seductive is that it sits at the intersection of elegance and vulnerability. The neck, in particular, exposes a side of you that feels delicate, even defenseless. When a man notices this, he's not just looking at skin, he's registering the trust and closeness it would take for him to touch or kiss that part of you. Unlike areas that are more openly sexual, your neck and collarbone belong to a space that's reserved for intimacy rather than show. That difference creates a powerful tension because it suggests a level of access he doesn't have yet but desperately craves. It's also about the contrast between what's revealed and what's hidden. A low neckline, the curve of your hair pulled back, the subtle outline of your collarbone beneath the skin. These small details create a frame for desire without ever being explicit. He may not even consciously realize it, but when his eyes linger on that area, he's already playing out fantasies in his head. He's imagining how your skin would feel, how you would react if his lips brushed along the side of your neck, whether you would melt into it or playfully resist. It's a moment where imagination becomes more powerful than anything physical. There's a reason why a whisper against your neck feels more electric than a shout. That closeness, that nearness to a vulnerable place, heightens everything. For him, seeing your neck uncovered gives him that same kind of charge. It's an invitation that isn't openly extended, but it lingers there, quietly daring him to think about it. And he does. He thinks about the warmth of your skin, the way your pulse might quicken beneath his touch, the way you might tilt your head just slightly, exposing yourself more to him without a word. This is why men often get caught staring when you least expect it. It's not always about what's obvious, but about the places that feel secretive, like he's getting a glimpse into a part of you that isn't usually on display. Your neck and collarbone have that exact effect. They are both delicate and commanding at the same time. To him, they signal elegance, class, but also the possibility of something far more primal. And it's that mix, softness paired with hidden passion, that makes them unforgettable in his mind. The truth is, your neck and collarbone are not just parts of your body, they are signals. Signals of intimacy, signals of trust, signals of a secret invitation he feels but can't always articulate. They draw him in, make him imagine, and spark a kind of desire he'll never admit out loud. And while he may try to play it cool, pretending he hasn't noticed, deep down he's already lost in the subtle seduction of the way that area of you makes him feel. When it comes to what men secretly desire, the fantasies they have about your neck and collarbone are often some of the most hidden and unspoken. Unlike thoughts about more obvious parts of your body, these are the kind of fantasies that rarely get confessed, yet they live vividly in his imagination. The reason is simple: your neck carries with it an aura of intimacy that few other areas can match. It's not just about how it looks, it's about the closeness, the vulnerability, and the anticipation it creates in his mind. And because of that, it becomes the subject of fantasies he'll never admit to you outright. What he thinks about is rarely tame. He imagines the moment his lips graze your skin, the warmth of your body responding to his touch, and the way your breath might hitch when he lingers too long at that delicate spot where your shoulder meets your neck. For him, it's not just a kiss, it's a gateway. That fantasy holds layers of passion because in his mind, the neck represents both softness and surrender. He wonders what it would be like to bite gently, to hear the sound of you gasping, to feel the tension melt away as you lean into him. These thoughts don't come from a place of disrespect, but from the deep primal connection that part of you awakens in him. The collarbone adds to this in a way that's entirely visual, but just as intoxicating. He sees the curve of it beneath your skin, the way it shifts when you laugh, or when you tilt your head ever so slightly. In his fantasies, tracing that line with his fingers or his lips becomes an act of claiming something secret, something other men might overlook. It's in those quiet details that his mind starts to wander, imagining the hidden reactions you might have, the small signs of pleasure he could draw out just by focusing on that part of you. These hidden fantasies also connect with his instinct for closeness. When he thinks about your neck, he's not only imagining physical touch, but also the moment of being close enough to feel your scent, to hear your breath, to exist in the space that's reserved for someone special. That closeness fuels his imagination far beyond the act itself. He imagines pulling you in, pressing his lips against your skin, and in that moment, feeling a kind of intimacy that strips away all pretenses. It's raw, it's personal, and that's what makes it such a powerful fantasy for him. The reason he hides these thoughts is because they feel too revealing, almost too personal to confess. He may joke about what he finds attractive in passing, but the intensity of what he imagines when he thinks about your neck and collarbone is something he guards carefully. To admit it would be to expose just how much you affect him, how much control you hold in moments you don't even realize. So he keeps it hidden, allowing his fantasies to stay safely in his mind while his eyes and his actions occasionally betray him. And here's the part that makes it even more powerful. These fantasies are often stronger than any reality. The act of thinking about it, of imagining what it would feel like, keeps the desire alive in a way that's almost more compelling than if it were openly acted on. The secrecy, the restraint, the idea that he's keeping something so intimate tucked away in his thoughts. This is what makes it linger, what makes it unforgettable. So when you notice his eyes flicker down, when you catch him glancing at your neck longer than expected, understand that he's not just admiring. He's hiding a world of fantasies that revolve around that small, delicate part of you. Fantasies that are far dirtier, far more consuming, and far more personal than he will ever let himself say aloud. What most women don't realize is that a man's imagination doesn't need a lot to run wild. It's not always about what's fully revealed, but about the subtle glimpses that leave space for him to wonder. And the collarbone happens to be one of those places where mystery and allure collide in the most powerful way. For him, a bare collarbone can be more intoxicating than a fully unclothed body because it teases rather than tells. It sparks curiosity. It leaves room for fantasy, and that space is exactly where his desire grows the fastest. Think about it. When you wear a dress that dips just slightly, or when your shirt slides off your shoulder without intention, his mind doesn't just register skin, it registers a secret being revealed. That tiny glimpse makes him imagine the rest, and the fact that he doesn't see everything at once drives him even crazier. Men are visual creatures, yes, but what truly fuels them is not just what they see, it's what they're not allowed to see. Your collarbone is like an invitation to imagine the story beyond what's visible. There's also something elegant about this area that makes it different from anywhere else on your body. It's refined, graceful, and subtle. When he sees it, he doesn't just think about desire, he thinks about the intimacy of tracing that line with his lips, the closeness of leaning in, the way your body would react to being touched there. It's a part of you that blends beauty with sensuality in a way that feels natural, not forced. That makes it even harder for him to resist, because it's not about performance or exaggeration. It's about something delicate and real. The collarbone also works as a kind of psychological trigger. For him, it represents the idea of getting closer than anyone else. It sits right at the border between what the world is allowed to see and what's meant to be private. That line alone carries enormous weight because it suggests intimacy without demanding it. When his eyes fall there, his brain doesn't just think about attraction. It thinks about possession, about access, about the privilege of being close enough to touch what others only get to glance at. That thought alone creates a spark in his mind that can quickly spiral into something much dirtier than he'd ever admit. This is why a man might lose his composure when you tilt your head back, when you laugh with your shoulders exposed, when your hair moves just enough to reveal that area of you. To him, those moments feel cinematic, like a scene he can't stop replaying. He notices every curve, every shadow, every subtle movement, and it fuels a fantasy that's richer than any reality could be. The collarbone, in his mind, becomes a canvas where desire writes its own story, one he's constantly filling in with his imagination. And perhaps what makes it most powerful is its unpredictability. He can expect cleavage to draw his attention, or legs, or lips. But when it comes to the collarbone, it catches him off guard. It sneaks into his awareness in ways he doesn't see coming. That unexpectedness makes the attraction even stronger. Suddenly, he's captivated by something so simple, and it leaves him wondering why it affects him so deeply. That confusion, that inability to control where his mind goes, only intensifies the pull he feels toward you. So, while you may not give much thought to the curve of your collarbone or the slope of your shoulders, know that to him, these details hold incredible power. They ignite fantasies without ever being explicit. They make him imagine what it would be like to touch, to kiss, to explore, and that imagination is far more seductive than anything you could show outright. The collarbone is his silent obsession, a trigger that makes him think thoughts he'll never speak, and that's exactly why it holds such a unique place in his hidden desires. There is a reason the neck and collarbone stir such powerful reactions in men, and it's not only about beauty. At a deeper level, they represent a fascinating balance between power and vulnerability. When a man's attention lingers on your neck, he isn't just admiring the smoothness of your skin. He's experiencing the psychological thrill of seeing a place that's both delicate and defenseless. That's why his fantasies about this area often carry undertones of dominance and surrender, because in his mind, your neck is more than a physical feature. It's a symbol. The neck has always been associated with trust. It's where your pulse beats, where your skin is most sensitive, and where you are instinctively most protective. When you tilt your head back, when you expose that part of yourself, even unconsciously, it sends a signal to him. It tells him that you are open, that you are allowing him into a space most people never get close to. And that gesture alone excites him in ways he can't explain. In his fantasies, being able to kiss or touch you, there isn't just about pleasure. It's about being granted access to a deeply intimate part of you. But here's the other side. While the neck and collarbone symbolize vulnerability for you, they create a sense of control for him. He imagines the way you would shiver under his touch, the way you might respond when he presses his lips against your skin, the way your breath might quicken if he held you close and didn't let go. These are moments where his desire mixes with a sense of dominance, not necessarily in a harsh way, but in the sense that he feels powerful in being the one who can unlock your reactions. That blend of softness and strength is exactly what fuels his obsession. The collarbone intensifies this dynamic. There's a sharpness, a definition to it that contrasts with the softness of your skin. He sees it as a frame, as a pathway leading his eyes and imagination to the rest of you. In his mind, tracing that bone with his lips or his fingers feels like claiming territory, like drawing invisible lines that no one else gets to cross. That act of ownership, even in fantasy, is thrilling to him. It's not about the collarbone alone, it's about the story of dominance and surrender that plays out in his thoughts when he fixates on it. This is why he doesn't just look at your neck or collarbone the way he looks at other features. When his eyes fall there, there's an intensity behind it, because he's not just admiring, he's imagining the entire exchange of power that could happen if he were close enough to act on it. He pictures the way you might tilt your head, the way your body might relax into his hold, the way you might resist only to give in seconds later. That push and pull, that dance between strength and softness, plays out in his fantasies every time he notices that part of you. And here's what makes it even more irresistible for him. He knows he's not supposed to think about it this way. That very secrecy fuels the power play in his head. It makes the desire more intense because it exists in a space between what's visible and what's forbidden. You might think you're simply brushing your hair aside or wearing something off the shoulder, but to him, it feels like an unspoken invitation into a moment of closeness that belongs to no one else. So when you catch him staring at your neck a little too long, or when his hand instinctively finds its way there, understand that it's not random. It's the silent tug of war happening in his mind, the urge to dominate, the thrill of your vulnerability, and the fantasy of merging both in a moment of passion. It's that hidden power, dynamic, woven into such a subtle part of you that keeps him captivated and leaves him obsessing long after you've walked away. One of the most fascinating parts about a man's desire for your neck and collarbone is that he will rarely, if ever, confess what really goes through his mind. These thoughts are too raw, too telling, too risky to share. He knows that if he admitted the fantasies that flood his head when his eyes linger on that area of you, he would be revealing just how much power you actually hold over him. So instead of speaking it out loud, he hides it. He tucks it away in the corners of his imagination, keeping it safe where it can't be judged or misunderstood. But hiding doesn't mean it disappears. In fact, the secrecy makes it stronger. Because he doesn't say it, the thoughts play on repeat in his mind. They surface in stolen glances, in the way his breathing changes when you lean a little closer, in the way he hesitates before pulling his eyes away. He may act casual, like he hasn't noticed, but his body betrays him. The subtle pause in conversation, the flicker in his expression, the way his hand almost moves toward you and then retreats, these are the cracks where his hidden fantasies leak through. The reason he hides them so carefully is tied to how men process vulnerability. To admit what he's really thinking would mean admitting that something so small, so delicate, has the ability to completely undo him. That your neck, with its softness and vulnerability, can make his imagination spiral into places he doesn't always want to reveal. It would be like handing you the keys to his desire, openly saying, "This is what weakens me." And most men are not comfortable with giving away that kind of truth, especially not so early, especially not so directly. Instead, he lets his actions speak for him, even if unconsciously. You might notice the way he positions himself closer when your hair is pulled back, or the way his fingers graze the side of your shoulder as though by accident. These gestures aren't accidental at all. They're fragments of the thoughts he's trying to keep contained. When he hugs you, his head dips just slightly lower than necessary. When he kisses your cheek, his lips brush a little too close to the curve of your neck. He's not saying it, but in those subtle movements, he's revealing the obsession he tries so hard to hide. And what makes this even more interesting is that his silence often convinces women that men don't think about these things. You might assume that because he hasn't mentioned it, it doesn't matter to him. But the truth is, it matters even more because he's hiding it. If he didn't care, he'd say it without hesitation. The fact that he keeps it buried means it has weight, it has intensity, and it occupies space in his mind that he can't erase. The hidden nature of his thoughts also creates tension between what he feels and what he shows. That tension builds attraction in ways words never could. You sense it even if you can't name it. The way his energy shifts when you expose that area, the way the air feels heavier when his eyes catch it. You might feel suddenly more aware of yourself, more aware of the space between you, because his desire is quietly pressing against the surface, even as he works hard to mask it. And in a way, This secrecy is part of what keeps the desire alive. If he laid everything bare, if he openly told you every fantasy, the mystery would be gone. By hiding it, he keeps it sacred, he keeps it charged. It becomes his private obsession, one that he feeds in silence, one that grows stronger because it's never fully released. And that's why when you walk into a room and adjust your hair or let your neckline slip just slightly, he doesn't need to say a word. You can already feel the truth of his thoughts in the way he looks at you quickly, intensely, and with a hunger he'll never openly admit. Knowing that a man hides these thoughts about your neck and collarbone gives you a kind of secret advantage, because once you understand what triggers his imagination, you can use it to shape the way he feels around you. This doesn't mean manipulation, but rather awareness of the subtle power you hold in places you might not even think about. The beauty of the neck and collarbone is that they don't need to be displayed in obvious ways to have an effect. Small gestures, tiny movements, a shift in posture, these can all send a message stronger than words ever could. When you adjust your hair to one side and leave your neck exposed, you're giving him a moment to imagine. It's not overt, but it lingers with him far longer than something more blatant. That small action makes him feel like he's been let in on a secret, and his mind instantly races to what it would feel like to get closer. When you tilt your head slightly, revealing the soft curve of your collarbone, he notices. He might not react outwardly, but internally he's already replaying that image, storing it, building on it. That's how much control this part of you has over his focus. The real power here comes from the balance of what you choose to reveal and what you choose to hold back. If everything is obvious, his imagination doesn't get the chance to work. But if you leave it subtle, if you make him wonder, his thoughts will do the work for you. That wondering is where attraction deepens, because it's not just about what he sees, it's about what he imagines he could feel. The collarbone and neck are perfect for this because they exist in that space between innocence and seduction. They can look graceful and elegant, but at the same time, they carry the weight of every fantasy he's keeping hidden. You can use this knowledge to not only spark desire, but also to create intimacy. When you lean in close enough for him to catch the faint scent of your skin, when you let his hand rest briefly against your shoulder, when you allow him a glimpse that feels unplanned, these moments build anticipation. They tell him without words that he's affecting you too, that the closeness he craves is within reach if he's willing to earn it. In those moments, you're not just passively being desired, you're actively guiding the way the connection unfolds. And the truth is, men don't even realize how much influence you have over them when it comes to these subtle details. They think they're in control of their thoughts, but a single look, a single tilt of your head can undo all of that. That's why when you understand the hidden obsession he has with your neck and collarbone, you start to see how much of the power is actually in your hands. You don't have to do much. You don't have to try hard. You simply need to be aware of the effect you already have. The beauty of this knowledge is that it doesn't just deepen attraction, it deepens connection. When you know what he hides, you understand him in ways he doesn't even understand himself. You see past the words he doesn't say, the fantasies he won't admit, and you tap into a part of his desire that feels secret and personal. That awareness makes your presence unforgettable to him, because you're not just another woman he finds attractive, you're the one who knows the truth of what drives him wild, even when he tries to keep it locked away. So the next time you catch his eyes lingering a little too long on your neck or collarbone, remember it's not a random glance, it's his hidden obsession surfacing, his fantasies breaking through, his restraint crumbling in the face of something he can't control. And if you choose, you can use that moment to pull him closer, to deepen the intimacy, and to remind him just how much power lies in the places he thinks he's the only one noticing.